There is a moment in life when you must ask yourself a very simple question. Asterisk, who is controlling your peace? Is it you or is it someone else? Maybe it is the person who ignored you. Maybe it is the person who criticized you. Maybe it is someone who misunderstood you, disrespected you, betrayed you, or said something that stayed in your mind long after the conversation ended. And this is where you must become honest with yourself. Because sometimes the person who disturbed your peace is no longer even thinking about what happened while you are still carrying it. You replay the conversation. You imagine what you should have said. You become angry again. You create answers to questions that nobody is asking. And slowly, without realizing it, you give another person control over something that belongs to you. Your attention, your emotions, your peace. But understand this. Asterisk, peace is not something other people are supposed to give you. Peace is something you learn to protect. You cannot control how people behave. You cannot control what they think about you. You cannot control whether they understand your intentions. You cannot control whether they appreciate your effort. But you can control what you allow to enter your mind. You can control whether you react immediately. You can control whether you carry someone's words for the entire day. And most importantly, you can decide when you are finished giving your energy to something that no longer deserves it. This does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming conscious. There is a difference between feeling an emotion and becoming controlled by it. Anger may appear. Let it appear. Sadness may appear. Allow yourself to feel it. Disappointment may come. Acknowledge it. But do not hand the steering wheel of your life to every emotion that passes through you. You are not every thought that enters your mind. You are not every emotion that rises within you. And you certainly do not need to react to every person who tries to provoke you. Sometimes the strongest response is not a response at all. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes walking away is not surrender. Sometimes letting someone misunderstand you is not failure. Sometimes it is simply the moment you finally decide that your peace is more valuable than proving yourself right. So today, stop asking asterisk, how can I make them change? Ask instead, asterisk, how can I master myself? Because the moment you stop trying to control everyone around you, you begin discovering a deeper form of freedom. And that freedom begins with one decision. I will no longer give other people the power to decide how I feel, how I think, or how peacefully I live. Your peace is your responsibility. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept, because it requires you to stop blaming the outside world for what happens inside you. When someone speaks badly about you, disrespects you, ignores you, rejects you, or treats you unfairly, it is natural to feel hurt. You are human. You have emotions. But feeling something is not the same as surrendering control to that feeling. The moment you understand this difference, you begin to develop real emotional strength. Many people believe that peace will come when everyone around them behaves correctly. They think, when they respect me, I will be peaceful. When they understand me, I will be peaceful. When they apologize, I will finally let go. But this places your inner state in the hands of other people. You are waiting for someone else to behave differently before you allow yourself to feel calm. And that means your peace is no longer yours. Imagine giving someone a key to your mind and telling them, whenever you want, you can enter and disturb me. Every criticism becomes a disturbance. Every negative comment becomes a disturbance. Every rejection becomes a disturbance. Every disagreement becomes a disturbance. You may not realize it, but you are allowing people to occupy space inside you, even when they are physically far away. The stronger path is to recognize that other people may influence you, but they do not have to control you. Someone can be angry with you without making you angry. Someone can misunderstand you without forcing you to explain yourself endlessly. Someone can dislike you without reducing your value. Someone can walk away without destroying your ability to continue walking forward. This is emotional independence. It does not mean that you stop caring. It means that you stop allowing your care to become dependence. You can love people without needing their approval. You can respect people without needing their respect in return. You can listen to criticism without allowing criticism to become your identity. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. There will always be people who judge your choices. There will always be people who project their own frustrations onto you. If you attempt to control every opinion, every reaction, and every perception, you will exhaust yourself. You cannot control the wind, but you can learn how to stand. You cannot control the waves, but you can learn how to remain balanced. In the same way, you cannot control the behavior of every person you meet, but you can train your mind not to be shaken by every behavior you encounter. This requires awareness. Before reacting, pause. Before answering, breathe. Before sending the message, wait. Before turning a small disagreement into a large conflict, ask yourself whether the situation truly deserves your energy. Not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves an explanation. Not everything deserves a place in your mind. Sometimes you protect your peace simply by refusing to participate in unnecessary conflict. And this is where discipline becomes important. Emotional mastery is not about never feeling anger. It is about refusing to let anger make your decisions for you. It is not about never feeling hurt. It is about refusing to let pain become your personality. It is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming clear. When you take responsibility for your peace, you stop saying, "They ruined my day," and begin saying, "I allowed this moment to control too much of my attention." That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Because responsibility gives you power. If someone else is responsible for your peace, then you must wait for them to change. But if you are responsible for your peace, then you can begin changing immediately. You can choose silence. You can choose distance. You can choose forgiveness. You can choose to release the argument. You can choose to focus on what is in front of you instead of what happened behind you. And sometimes, the greatest act of self-respect is simply deciding that you will not carry another person's behavior into the rest of your day. Your mind is valuable, your attention is valuable, your energy is valuable. Do not spend all three trying to win battles that do not deserve to be fought. The world will continue to test your patience. People will sometimes disappoint you. Circumstances will sometimes move against you. But every difficult moment can become a training ground for your mind. Instead of asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" ask, "What is this moment teaching me about myself?" Maybe it is teaching you patience. Maybe it is teaching you boundaries. Maybe it is teaching you detachment. Maybe it is teaching you that you do not need to be understood by everyone. And perhaps most importantly, it is teaching you that peace becomes powerful when it no longer depends on perfect circumstances. You do not need everyone to agree with you. You do not need everyone to like you. You do not need everyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. You need to know what deserves your energy and what does not. You need to know when to speak and when silence is wiser. You need to know when to stay and when to walk away. Because when you become responsible for your peace, you stop living as a reaction to the world and begin living as a decision within yourself. And that is where your freedom begins. The space between what happens and how you respond is where your power lives. Something happens outside of you, and immediately something begins happening inside of you. Someone says something disrespectful, a message arrives that you did not expect, someone ignores you, criticizes you, or challenges your character. The mind wants to respond immediately. It wants to defend, attack, explain, prove, or escape. But emotional strength begins when you learn to pause. A pause may look like nothing from the outside, but inside, it is a powerful act of discipline. When you pause, you are telling your emotions, I see you, but you will not decide for me. You are creating enough space to choose your response, instead of becoming a prisoner of your first impulse. Most unnecessary conflicts begin with immediate reactions. One person speaks from anger, the other responds from anger, and within seconds a small moment becomes a serious conflict. Later, both people may regret what they said, but words cannot always be taken back. This is why learning to pause is not weakness. It is protection. Think about how often you have reacted to something and regretted it later. Perhaps you sent a message while angry. Perhaps you said something harsh because you felt attacked. Perhaps you raised your voice because you wanted to be understood. In that moment, your emotion felt justified, but justification does not always mean wisdom. An emotion can be real and still lead you toward the wrong action. Anger can tell you that something matters, but it does not automatically tell you what to do. Fear can tell you that something feels uncertain, but it does not mean you should run. Hurt can tell you that you have been affected, but it does not mean you must hurt someone in return. The emotion is information. Your response is a choice. That distinction can change your life. When something triggers you, take a breath. Do not immediately answer. Do not immediately send the message. Do not immediately make the decision. Give yourself a moment to observe what is happening inside you. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Then ask, why am I feeling it? Then ask, if I respond from this emotion, will I respect my response tomorrow? These questions create awareness. And awareness weakens impulsiveness. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to answer every accusation. You do not need to defend yourself against every opinion. Sometimes the desire to respond comes from the ego wanting to prove that it is right. But peace does not require you to prove your worth in every conversation. There is strength in being able to hear something you dislike without immediately reacting. There is strength in receiving criticism without becoming defensive. There is strength in being misunderstood without desperately trying to convince everyone. There is strength in walking away from a conversation when you recognize that continuing, it will only create more noise. This does not mean you should tolerate disrespect or avoid necessary conversations. Emotional mastery is not passive. Sometimes you must speak. Sometimes you must establish a boundary. Sometimes you must say no. But when you speak from a calm mind instead of an uncontrolled emotion, your words become clearer and more powerful. A calm response can accomplish what an angry reaction never could. The goal is not to suppress your emotions. Suppressed emotions eventually find another way to express themselves. The goal is to understand your emotions so deeply that they no longer control your behavior. Imagine someone trying to provoke you. They expect an immediate reaction. They want you angry because your anger gives them influence over you. But when you remain calm, you remove that influence. You are no longer dancing according to someone else's rhythm. This is why silence can be powerful. Not because silence is always the answer, but because sometimes refusing to react is the clearest sign that you are in control of yourself. The next time someone pushes your buttons, notice what happens. Feel the heat of anger. Feel the tension in your body. Feel the urge to answer. But do not move immediately. Breathe. Observe. Wait, then choose. That small pause can prevent a large mistake. It can protect a relationship. It can protect your dignity. It can protect your peace. With practice, the pause becomes longer. The reaction becomes weaker. Your awareness becomes stronger. And eventually, situations that once controlled your entire mood begin to lose their power over you. You realize that not every thought needs to become a word, not every emotion needs to become an action, and not every provocation deserves your energy, because true emotional mastery begins when you stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. You do not need everyone to approve of you before you can respect yourself. One of the greatest sources of emotional exhaustion is the constant desire to be accepted, understood, praised, and validated by other people. When your sense of worth depends on how others see you, your inner peace becomes unstable. One compliment can make you feel powerful, while one criticism can make you question everything about yourself. This is a dangerous way to live, because people are unpredictable. Their opinions change, their moods change, their expectations change. What pleases one person may disappoint another. If you build your identity around satisfying everyone, you will spend your life adjusting yourself to people who may never be satisfied. You must learn to ask yourself a deeper question. Do I respect the person I am becoming? That question is more important than do they like me? Because when you constantly seek approval, you slowly stop listening to your own values. You begin saying yes when you want to say no. You remain in situations that make you unhappy because you are afraid of disappointing someone. You explain yourself repeatedly because you are afraid of being misunderstood. You change your behavior because you fear judgment. And slowly, you become disconnected from yourself. There is nothing wrong with appreciating encouragement. There is nothing wrong with enjoying recognition. Human beings naturally want connection and acceptance. The problem begins when approval becomes a requirement for your happiness. If you need everyone to approve of you, you give everyone authority over your emotions. One person can criticize your appearance. Another can question your choices. Someone else can tell you that your dreams are unrealistic. Another person can decide that you are not good enough. And if you believe every voice you hear, eventually you will forget your own voice. You must understand that not every opinion deserves equal weight. Someone's opinion about you is not automatically a fact about you. People see you through their own experiences, insecurities, expectations, and limitations. Sometimes their judgment tells you more about them than it tells you about yourself. This does not mean you should reject all criticism. A mature person listens. If someone points out a weakness, you can examine it. If the criticism is useful, learn from it. If it is not useful, release it. The difference is that you choose what enters your mind, instead of allowing every opinion to define you. You do not have to prove yourself to everyone. You do not have to explain every decision. You do not have to convince people who have already decided to misunderstand you. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing. Not because you are afraid to speak, but because you understand that your energy is limited and your peace is valuable. Think about how much energy is wasted trying to control perception. You post something and wonder who liked it. You make a decision and wonder who will approve. You express an opinion and worry about who will disagree. You achieve something and immediately look for recognition. But what happens when the recognition does not come? Do you suddenly become less valuable? No. Your value did not increase because someone praised you, and it did not decrease because someone criticized you. Your worth cannot be measured by the reactions of people who do not live your life. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood sometimes. You must become comfortable with not being everyone's favorite person. You must become comfortable with walking a path that others do not understand. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. When you stop seeking constant validation, something changes inside you. You become quieter. You become more focused. You stop performing for people and start living according to your principles. You no longer ask, what will they think? You begin asking, what is right for me? You begin making decisions from clarity rather than fear. You begin understanding that rejection is not always a reflection of your value. Sometimes people simply want different things. Sometimes paths separate. Sometimes relationships end. Sometimes people do not recognize what you bring into their lives. And you learn that you can survive all of it without abandoning yourself. This is emotional freedom. You can care about what people think without being controlled by what they think. You can listen without obeying every opinion. You can accept feedback without accepting every judgment. You can love people without needing their constant approval. The moment you stop demanding validation from the outside world, you begin building validation from within. You become your own witness. You know how hard you worked. You know what you survived. You know the intentions behind your actions. You know the battles nobody else saw. And because you know yourself, you no longer need to explain yourself to every person who questions you. Walk quietly, improve yourself. Keep your standards. Let your actions speak. And remember that peace becomes much easier to protect when your happiness no longer depends on receiving permission from everyone around you to be yourself. Because the strongest form of confidence is not being admired by everyone, but being at peace with the person you are when nobody is watching. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think that if you detach, you stop caring. They think becoming emotionally strong means becoming distant, emotionless, or indifferent. But true detachment is not about having no feelings. It is about having feelings without allowing those feelings to control your life. You can care deeply about someone and still understand that their choices are not yours to carry. There are people who will bring peace into your life, and there will be people who bring confusion. Some will understand you, while others will constantly misunderstand you. Some will respect your boundaries, while others will repeatedly test them. If you try to carry the emotional weight of every person around you, eventually you will lose yourself. You must learn the difference between caring and carrying. Caring means you recognize someone's pain. Carrying means you make their pain your responsibility. Caring means you want someone to be well. Carrying means you believe you must fix everything for them. Caring means you listen. Carrying means you absorb their anger, fear, frustration, and chaos until it becomes your own. You are allowed to care without becoming consumed. When someone is angry, you do not have to become angry. When someone is anxious, you do not have to lose your calm. When someone is confused, you do not have to become confused. When someone chooses negativity, you do not have to follow them into it. This is emotional detachment. It is the ability to remain connected without losing yourself. Think about a tree standing beside a river. The river continues to move. Sometimes the water is calm. Sometimes it becomes violent. Sometimes it rises. Sometimes it falls. But the tree does not jump into the river every time the water changes. It remains rooted. Your life needs that kind of rootedness. People will have moods. People will have problems. People will make mistakes. People will sometimes project their frustrations onto you. If your emotional state changes every time someone else's emotional state changes, you will never experience stability. This is why boundaries are important. A boundary is not a punishment. A boundary is a clear understanding of what you will and will not allow into your life. You can say, I care about you, but I cannot carry this for you. You can say, I understand that you are upset, but I will not allow myself to be treated disrespectfully. You can say, I wish you well, but I need distance. These statements do not make you cruel. They make you conscious. Sometimes people will accuse you of changing when you begin protecting your peace. They may say you are distant. They may say you no longer care. They may become uncomfortable because they are used to having unlimited access to your attention. But remember, not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. Your kindness should not require self-destruction. Your compassion should not require abandoning your boundaries. Your love should not require sacrificing your peace every day. You can walk away without hatred. You can forgive without reconnecting. You can understand someone without agreeing with them. You can wish someone well without allowing them back into every part of your life. This is one of the deepest forms of emotional maturity. You stop trying to change people. You stop trying to rescue people who refuse to rescue themselves. You stop trying to convince people to treat you differently. Instead, you observe their actions and make your decisions accordingly. Because people show you who they are through patterns, not promises. And when you accept that, you no longer need to fight reality. If someone repeatedly brings chaos into your life, you do not need to hate them. You simply need to recognize the effect their presence has on your peace. Distance can sometimes be an act of wisdom. Silence can sometimes be an act of compassion. Walking away can sometimes be an act of self-respect. The goal is not to build walls around your heart. The goal is to build a strong foundation beneath it. Keep your heart open, but keep your mind awake. Love people, but do not lose yourself in them. Help people, but do not become responsible for every problem they have. Listen to people, but do not absorb every emotion they carry. And when someone chooses chaos, remember that you are not required to enter the chaos, simply because you care about the person standing inside it. You can remain peaceful while others are unsettled. You can remain grounded while others are lost. You can remain kind without becoming available to every form of disrespect. That is the balance between compassion and detachment. And when you learn this balance, you stop confusing love with suffering and finally understand that protecting your peace does not mean closing your heart. It means knowing where your responsibility ends and another person's responsibility begins. Real power does not come from controlling other people. It comes from learning to control yourself. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to change the behavior of those around them. They want people to speak differently, think differently, respect them more, apologize sooner, or behave according to their expectations. But the more you try to control what is outside of you, the more powerless you often become. You cannot command another person's thoughts. You cannot force another person to understand you. You cannot make someone respect you. You cannot control how someone reacts to your boundaries. And you cannot create peace by constantly fighting against things you were never meant to control. Your true responsibility begins with yourself. You can control the words you choose. You can control whether you react immediately. You can control where you place your attention. You can control the habits you practice. You can control whether you remain calm when someone tries to provoke you. You can control whether you stay in a situation that repeatedly destroys your peace. This is where real strength begins. Imagine someone insulting you. Your first instinct may be to respond with another insult. You may want to prove that you are stronger, but if another person's words can instantly control your behavior, then they have already gained power over you. The person spoke a few words. You carried them for hours. They changed your mood. They occupied your thoughts. They influenced your actions. This is not freedom. Freedom is being able to hear something you dislike without becoming something you dislike. It means you can experience anger without becoming cruel. You can experience disappointment without becoming bitter. You can experience rejection without deciding that you are worthless. You can experience disrespect without losing your dignity. Pressuring yourself does not mean becoming perfectly calm every second. It means becoming increasingly aware of what happens inside you. You notice the emotion before it becomes an action. You notice the thought before it becomes a belief. You notice the impulse before it becomes a decision. That awareness creates choice, and choice creates power. When you stop trying to control people, you also stop wasting energy on impossible battles. You stop asking why someone is behaving the way they are. You stop replaying their mistakes in your mind. You stop waiting for the perfect apology. You stop imagining how different life would be if they simply changed. Instead, you ask a more useful question. What can I do now? Maybe you need to create distance. Maybe you need to communicate clearly. Maybe you need to forgive. Maybe you need to say no. Maybe you need to stop explaining yourself. Maybe you simply need to let the situation go. Whatever the answer is, your attention returns to the place where it belongs. Yourself. This does not mean becoming selfish. In fact, mastering yourself allows you to become more useful to others because you are no longer reacting from emotional chaos. You can listen more carefully. You can communicate more clearly. You can make decisions without being controlled by anger or fear. A person who cannot control themselves will always be controlled by circumstances. If praise controls you, you will chase approval. If criticism controls you, you will live defensively. If anger controls you, people can provoke you easily. If fear controls you, you will avoid everything that challenges you. If rejection controls you, you will constantly seek acceptance. But when you learn to govern yourself, these things lose their authority over you. You become steady, you become difficult to manipulate, you become less reactive, you become more intentional. And this is why emotional mastery is not about defeating other people. It is about becoming someone who no longer needs to defeat anyone. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to have the final word. You do not need to prove that you were right. Sometimes the greatest victory is leaving a situation without carrying hatred with you. Sometimes strength is saying nothing. Sometimes strength is walking away. Sometimes strength is choosing peace when your ego wants revenge. Your mind is your first territory. If you cannot govern your thoughts will govern you. If you cannot manage your emotions will manage your decisions. If you cannot control your attention, everything around you will compete for it. So begin with yourself. Train your mind to pause. Train your emotions to settle. Train your attention to return. Train your body to remain disciplined. Train your words to become intentional. And slowly, you will discover that the less you try to control the world around you, the more control you develop over the world within you. You will no longer need everyone to behave correctly before you feel peaceful. You will no longer need everyone to understand you before you feel secure. You will no longer need everyone to respect you before you respect yourself. You will simply know who you are, what you stand for, what you will tolerate, and where you will place your energy. That is inner power, not the power to control another person, but the power to remain yourself regardless of what another person chooses to do. Because when you master yourself, you stop being a prisoner of other people's behavior and become the quiet authority of your own mind, emotions, choices, and life. Your peace is too valuable to place in the hands of other people. You cannot control their words, actions, opinions, or emotions, but you can control your response. Pause before reacting. Stop seeking approval. Care without carrying everyone's problems. Walk away when necessary, and choose yourself without guilt. Remember, emotional strength is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming grounded. The world will always give you reasons to react, but you decide whether those reasons deserve your energy. Master yourself, protect your peace, and let your actions come from clarity rather than emotion. Your greatest power begins when you stop giving it away.